Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for April 29th, 2019. This week, let's begin with segregation. Remember when we, as a society, decided that was a bad thing? Well, university hosts No Whites Allowed faculty and staff listening sessions to promote inclusivity. Evidently, we're so progressive now that segregation is inclusion. Wake Forest University is hosting a series of listening sessions for faculty and staff of color that aim to advance inclusion efforts on campus. Now, remember that part. Very important. The purpose, the entire reason we need these listening sessions is to advance inclusion efforts on campus. The listening sessions come amid ongoing racial tensions on campus, including a protest Monday at which some students decried the white supremacy that allegedly runs rampant at the private North Carolina institution. Dear faculty and staff colleagues, this is a reminder about our upcoming listening sessions on inclusion that I am holding for faculty and staff of color over the next several weeks, stated in April 18th email from Michelle Gillespie, Dean of the College, to campus employees. The email, a copy of which was obtained by the College Fix, continued. For faculty and staff who identify as faculty or staff of color, Monday, April 22nd at 4 p.m. in whatever, blah, blah, blah. For faculty and staff who identify as faculty of staff of color, Thursday, May 2nd at 11 a.m., etc. For staff who identify as staff of color only, Monday, May 6th at 4 p.m. Please know that I have requested that all department chairs provide staff release time to be able to attend a listening session. Gillespie, as well as campus spokesman Katie Neal, did not return several emails over the last few days from the College Fix seeking comment. I can't imagine why. Now, I don't really know what the fuck a listening session is exactly. I can't say I've ever actually heard of such a thing, but apparently only faculty and staff of color need to listen. Now, never mind that you're apparently trying to advance inclusion by excluding people for a second, because I really don't think I need to point out just how damn dumb that is. But you're also saying black people need to come over here and listen. Call me crazy, but doesn't that sound a little bit like white supremacy to you? You see, this is what happens when you talk in buzzwords and platitudes too much. You don't actually consider what the hell you're really saying. Think once in a while, you fucking idiots. It won't kill you, I promise. What's next, Bob? Fat sex therapist compares fitness trainers to Nazis, children's dieting to sexual assault. Let's see. The Nazis tried to exterminate an entire race of people, and fitness trainers tried to help you meet your fitness goals. Yeah, that's totally the same thing. I truly believe that a child cannot consent to being on a diet the same way a child cannot consent to having sex. Sonali Rush, I don't know how to pronounce her name, whose Instagram username is The Fat Sex Therapist, proclaimed Thursday from the main stage of St. Olaf College. Well, okay. After I stopped laughing, I thought about this for a second, and you know what? She's kind of right. A child can't really consent to a diet since a child generally isn't providing their own food. Someone else is providing it to them. Now, I don't know about everybody else. When I was a kid, you had a choice in our house. You could eat what mom gave you, or you could go without. Now, we didn't always have that choice, mind you. Sometimes there was just eat it. Most often employed when it was something she already knew we didn't like liver. Bleh. But usually it was eat it or go hungry. There was no third or fourth or infinite options because of one simple fact. We were kids. We couldn't buy and cook our own food. That tends to limit your options a little bit. So if you actually think about it, yeah, a child can't really consent to their diet. But what's the alternative? Just giving kids whatever they want? That won't lead to a bunch of spoiled, entitled, selfish, egotistical little shits with early onset diabetes at all. Tonight, we're going to start by talking about how to politicize our definition of body image. I can't fucking pronounce that name, began. Because oftentimes we actually get stuck thinking of it from a white supremacist lens. She explained how white supremacy happens every day in all these little things. Yeah, I'm skipping around. You can read the whole thing for yourself if you like. During the course of her talk, Rashatwar, I guess, listed science as one of these supposedly white supremacist everyday things. Ha! Yes. The horrible white supremacist reliance on observation, evidence, and proof to reveal truths. They're well known for that. We should be critical of the use of science and the production of knowledge to continue promoting this idea that certain bodies are fit, able, and desirable. Is it my fatness that causes my high blood pressure, or is it my experience of weight stigma? Rashatwar asked. It's probably your fatness. We've studied this shit. Just because you don't like the answer doesn't mean the science is wrong. Now, there are other things that can also cause high blood pressure, so I can't say definitively that yours is entirely caused by obesity, but your weight is most likely a contributing factor at the very least. She then connected the science suggesting that obesity is unhealthy to Nazism, saying that fat-phobic science is often actually eugenic science. Eugenic science is Nazi science. Good grief. Do we have to go through this again with another one? Something doesn't become wrong just because a Nazi thought of it. Now, I will say the bulk, if not all, of the Nazis' medical research was poorly organized, badly conducted, and frequently revolved around utterly ridiculous premises. And since much of it was so poorly documented, and of course it is not repeatable in the sense that no respectable scientist now would conduct such experiments, even the data gathered from it is pretty much worthless to modern science, much less the conclusions drawn from it. More or less what you'd expect from such scientists with no regard for ethical behavior. In this respect, the Nazis were very much of the let's just try and see variety, and that's not really proper or particularly useful science. However, the Nazi military technology was actually quite advanced for the time, ahead of the Allies in many respects. That's why the US and Russia made a mad scramble to apprehend so many German scientists after the war. Several of these things have since become part of our everyday lives, like the jet engine, for example. Now, it's worth noting that the British also invented a jet engine at about the same time as well, and both technologies, with some improvements, are still used today. But the German design turns out to be a little more useful for most applications. This isn't a historical technology lesson, though, and I'm no expert on the subject either. I only know a little, so I'm not going to diverge into that here, but the point is still the same. Something isn't just flat out wrong simply because a Nazi thought of it. Plenty of things the Nazis thought of were in fact just flat out wrong, but again, not simply because a Nazi thought of it. They were just objectively wrong. As far as eugenics itself, well, that was being practiced to some degree in various cultures around the world before the Nazis. It's the same general idea behind the reason the royals of Europe did so much interbreeding in the Middle Ages. Same in ancient Egypt and Japan as well. They believed that royal blood was super special and shouldn't be diluted with peasant blood. Now, I'm being super general here because, again, complicated subject with a long history, and that's not the point of this video. But eugenics most certainly wasn't invented by the Nazis. It was around long before them. The point for this video is simply this. If you want to dismiss or discredit science, you're going to have to do far better than just say, a Nazi thought of it. Especially when you're just flat out wrong about where a particular science came from in the first place. However, she then pivoted to support scientific findings as she pondered intentionally pursuing weight loss, claiming that what we're discovering scientifically is that that's not possible. Oh, I see. Science is evil white supremacy unless it says what I want to hear. Seriously, if I'd known you were going to be that fucking dumb, I wouldn't have bothered explaining all that earlier. I'd have just laughed and moved on because you don't deserve to be taken seriously anymore. After addressing the topic of science and making her claim that there is no connection between high blood pressure and obesity, Rashatwar turned to discuss political philosophy and policy. This conversation about pushing off our own well-being onto the individual is part of these 1980 Reagan-era policies that again try to move the structural obligation of a system and this social safety net onto the individual, Rashatwar said, instead of thinking that there should be social supports that also help me subsidize my food costs. You're fucking kidding me. You think it's society's responsibility to provide you with all the food you feel like stuffing in your face. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. I might have been willing to entertain the idea that society has some moral obligation to feed the starving, but I will not accept that we're responsible for subsidizing selfishness and gluttony. That's a step too far for my compassion, I'm afraid. If you want to stuff yourself to an early grave, that's your business, but it's not my responsibility to help you do it. Let's move along, Bob. I'm finished with this Looney Tune. I don't even want to hear what else she has to say. MSU to natural science students. No science is needed to support transgender and non-binary identities. Well, that's good because no science does. No, Bob. We're done. We don't need to go any farther with this one. That's not true. I did listen to him. I listened to that much, and I don't need to hear any more. He doesn't need any science to make shit up, and you know what? That's fine. I'm actually good with that. People can make up whatever crazy shit they want to. Hell, there's even a profession for people who want to do that. It's called fiction writing, or network news anchor. But whether he likes it or not, he needs some science somewhere along the way to convince the rest of us it's anything other than fiction. And I'm very sorry if that hurts some people's delicate fifis, but yeah, okay, you got me. I'm not actually sorry, but that's just the way it is. Let's get on to the toxic masculinity. Arizona mom allegedly punched son for being a bad lookout as grandma tried to shoplift. An Arizona mother was arrested for allegedly assaulting her son for not keeping a good enough lookout as his grandmother shoplifted. Rebecca Gonzalez, 27, was taken into custody after police officers in Phoenix claimed to have witnessed her beating her 7-year-old son, according to court documents published by azfamily.com. Gonzalez, on Friday, walked out of a Walmart parking lot when police officers spotted her spanking the boy, then slapped him and finally punching him in the face. The boy allegedly told investigators that he was hit because he didn't watch out for his grandma good enough, as she was shoplifting inside the Walmart, the documents alleged. Well, there you have it. Boy's fault. He wasn't doing enough to make sure grandma didn't get caught stealing, and mommy needs to make sure he learns how to protect thieves better. Now, to the broader question, why was grandma stealing in the first place? Well, patriarchy, of course. If all these damn toxic men would just give her everything she wants because clearly she's earned it, vagina, then she wouldn't have been forced to steal things. Mommy wouldn't have been forced to teach Junior how to be a good lookout for thieves. Junior wouldn't have subsequently fucked it up, and Mommy wouldn't have had to beat the shit out of him, right? So, yeah, men's fault. All right, what's funny this week? Socialist students proudly promote their own bread line. Is this one of those things where they try to reclaim the meme and fail miserably because they don't even understand the meme? Socialist students at the University of Texas, San Antonio encourage followers to stop by the group's breadline. Come by our breadline today. We are giving away free sandwiches in front of the MH for another hour, so come on by before they're out. Yep, that's exactly what they've done. Trying to make it look as though a breadline is a good thing. Now, I wonder just where in the hell they got a crazy-ass idea like that. The tweet calls attention to a common stereotype of socialist countries at a time when the far left in America's Democratic Party is advocating for socialist policies, such as free healthcare, universal basic income, and free college. Among the 2020 Democrat presidential candidates advocating for such policies is Senator Bernie Sanders, a self-described Democratic socialist. Oh, I should have guessed. Bernie Sanders. And did he actually say breadlines are a good thing? Shortly after Sanders announced his 2020 bid for the presidency in February, video surfaced showing the senator praising the idea of breadlines in 1985. I can't actually play you the video, so I will just read it instead. It's funny, sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is because people are lining up for food. That's a good thing. In other countries, people don't line up for food. The rich get the food, and the poor starve to death. Sanders, who at the time was mayor of Burlington, Vermont, said. Holy shit. He did say that. Oh, man. Now, I'll give you a bit of credit there, Bernie. You did twist there at the end to make it sound like a good thing. And sure, it clearly worked on brainwashed morons, but the problem you face with the rest of us, Bern, is we know that's not why there are breadlines. In fact, and it may shock some of you younger folks out there who don't study history, but there was a time when America had a whole lot of breadlines too. You may remember it from your history class. It was called the Great Depression. People didn't line up for food because we wanted to make sure everyone got an equal share. No, they lined up because they didn't have enough money to buy their own food. They had to rely on the generosity of others just to eat. Breadlines aren't about equality, you fucking morons. They're about poverty. Now, can you rocket scientists guess why we use breadlines as a stereotype for socialist countries, or do I have to connect the dots for you? That's it for this week. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.